So, I'm Jason, 33M, and my wife, let's call her Emily, 31F, and I have been married for about 5 years. We met in college, your typical love story, right? She was the girl who caught everyone's attention, and somehow, she picked me. Honestly, I never understood why. Emily is beautiful, confident, and always seems to have everything together. Me? I'm just a regular guy who's been working hard to keep our life stable. I work in finance, nothing glamorous, but it pays the bills and keeps us comfortable. We've had our ups and downs like any couple. Nothing too major, just the usual disagreements about work, friends, and spending habits. But lately, things have felt off. Emily has always been outgoing, but recently, she's been more distant. She's been spending more time on her phone, staying late at work, and planning trips with her friends. I told myself I was overthinking it, that it's just the stress of her new job. Emily's a lawyer, and her hours can be intense, so I tried to be supportive. But here's the thing, deep down, something doesn't feel right. About a month ago, Emily suggested we take a weekend trip. Just the two of us. It sounded perfect, like maybe we could reconnect and get back to being us. We booked a nice cabin in the mountains, far away from work, stress, and everything else. I thought this would be the reset we needed, but little did I know, it would be the trip that shattered everything. So, the day of the trip arrives, and I'm trying to stay optimistic. Maybe I've just been overthinking things, letting my imagination run wild. We pack up the car, and I'm feeling pretty good. Emily's in a great mood, almost too cheerful, which I chalk up to her excitement for the getaway. I try to let myself relax, to believe that this trip is what we need to reconnect. The drive to the cabin is beautiful, all winding roads and fall colors. Emily's chatting away, telling me about her latest work projects, and for a moment, I start to think that maybe this will all blow over. Maybe I'm just being paranoid. But then there are these little moments. Like, she's constantly checking her phone. She's always been glued to it, but this was different. Every time she gets a message, she laughs quietly or smiles to herself, then flips the screen over when I glance her way. It's subtle, but enough to make my stomach drop. "Who's texting you?" I ask casually, trying not to sound suspicious. "Oh, just work stuff," she replies, a little too quickly. "You know how it is." "Sure, I know how it is. But since when did work texts make her giggle like that?" I try not to press it. We're supposed to be relaxing, after all. I don't want to start an argument before we even get there. We arrive at the cabin around dusk. It's perfect, secluded, quiet, everything I thought we needed. I unload the car while Emily disappears inside, her phone still in hand. When I finally join her, she's already set up on the couch, scrolling through her phone again. "So, what's the plan for tonight?" I ask, hoping to get her attention. She looks up, almost surprised that I'm still there. "Oh, I don't know. Maybe we can just order in, have a chill night," she says, shrugging. It's not what I had in mind. I wanted us to talk, to reconnect, but I agree anyway. I mean, I want this to work. Maybe I'm the one who needs to loosen up. So we order some food, crack open a bottle of wine, and settle in for the night. But the whole time, I can't shake this weird feeling. Emily's distracted. Every time her phone buzzes, she glances at it, then back at me with this fake smile. I'm starting to feel like I'm not even here with her. Like I'm an afterthought. I brush it off and tell myself I'm being ridiculous. It's just one night. Tomorrow will be better. It has to be. The next morning, I wake up early, hoping today will be different. Emily's still asleep, so I decide to make breakfast, trying to set the tone for a better day. I keep it simple: eggs, toast, coffee. Something we can enjoy together, like we used to. But as I'm cooking, I hear her phone buzz again. Even though she's still asleep, the sound makes my gut twist. I brush it off, trying to focus on the moment. When she finally comes out of the bedroom, she looks exhausted, like she didn't get much sleep. I know I sure didn't. I couldn't stop thinking about those damn text messages from last night. Morning, I say, putting on a smile as I set the food on the table. Morning, she mumbles, barely looking at me as she grabs her phone first thing. She's scrolling through it while I pour her coffee, and I can't help but feel invisible. Hey, I made breakfast, I say, a little louder this time, hoping she'll snap out of it. She finally looks up, but her eyes are glazed over like she's not really present. Oh, thanks. Looks great, she says, but there's no warmth in her voice. It's just words, like she's going through the motions. We sit down to eat, and the silence between us feels heavier than it should. I'm trying to make small talk, asking her about work, about life, anything to break the tension. But her answers are short, almost dismissive. She's barely engaging, and every few minutes, she glances down at her phone like she's waiting for something. It's eating at me. I try to stay calm, but the longer this goes on, the more I feel like something is wrong. Like I'm missing something big, but I don't know what. And I hate that feeling, being left out, being kept in the dark. Emily, is everything okay? I finally ask, trying to sound casual but failing miserably. She looks up, startled, like she wasn't expecting me to ask. Yeah, why wouldn't it be, she says, forcing a smile. I don't know. You've been distant lately. Like, you're not really here, I say, my voice quieter now. I'm trying to approach this without pushing too hard, but I need answers. She shrugs, brushing it off. It's just work stress, Jason. I've got a lot going on. Can we just enjoy this trip? You're reading too much into things. Am I? Maybe I am. But something still doesn't sit right with me. I want to believe her, but there's this nagging voice in the back of my head telling me that she's not being honest. I decide to drop it for now. Maybe she really is just stressed, and I'm making things worse by pushing. We spend the rest of the day hiking, taking in the scenery, but there's this invisible wall between us. We're walking side by side, but I feel miles away from her. That night, after another round of takeout and a couple more glasses of wine, she starts laughing again at something on her phone. It's subtle, but I catch it. It's that same damn smile she had yesterday. I can't take it anymore. Who are you texting all the time? I ask, trying to sound casual, but I can't hide the frustration in my voice. She pauses, her smile fading for just a second before she puts the phone down. Nobody. It's just work stuff, like I told you. It's the same answer she's been giving me, but it feels rehearsed now. Too perfect, too easy. And I can't shake the feeling that she's hiding something, something big. I don't press her any further that night, but I know I'm not imagining this. I know there's more to it. I'm starting to get scared of what I might find. The next day, I wake up feeling worse than ever. I've got this pit in my stomach that won't go away, like something terrible is about to happen, but I can't quite put my finger on it. Emily's already up, sitting by the window with her phone. Again. She looks peaceful, sipping her coffee, but the sight of her so engrossed in her phone makes me feel sick. I try to shake it off. Maybe I'm just being paranoid. Maybe all this is in my head. But the more I tell myself that, the more it feels like a lie. Something's not right, and every part of me knows it. Morning, I say, trying to keep things light. I walk over and kiss her on the top of her head. She barely acknowledges me, just gives a half-hearted morning without looking up from her screen. It's like I'm not even there. Any plans for today? I ask, already bracing for another day of awkward small talk and half-assed interactions. She looks up, finally putting her phone down. I was thinking we could drive into town, maybe check out some of the shops. There's a cute little cafe I read about. It sounds nice. It sounds normal. But something about the way she says it feels forced. Like she's trying to keep me distracted, to keep things light and avoid the elephant in the room. Yeah, sounds good, I say, hoping a change of scenery might help. Maybe if we get out of this cabin, I can clear my head and stop obsessing over every little thing she does. We drive into town, and at first, things seem better. Emily's more engaged, pointing out little shops she wants to check out, acting like her old self. For a moment, I start to believe that maybe I'm wrong. Maybe this is all just stress from work, and I've been overthinking everything. But then it happens again. We're sitting at the cafe, enjoying our drinks, when her phone buzzes. She glances at it, and I watch as that familiar smile creeps across her face. She quickly turns the phone over, but it's too late, I've seen it. I can't hold back anymore. Who keeps texting you, Emily? I ask, my voice sharper than I intended. I feel like I've barely talked to you all weekend. You've been glued to that thing. She looks caught off guard for a split second before that fake smile returns. It's no one, Jason. Seriously. Just some work stuff. Can we not make a big deal out of this? We're supposed to be relaxing. But I can't drop it this time. Work stuff doesn't make you smile like that. I'm not stupid, Emily. Something's going on, and I deserve to know. Her expression shifts, just for a moment. It's subtle, but I catch it, like she's calculating her next move. She leans forward, putting her hand on mine. Jason, you're being paranoid. I told you, it's just work. I don't know why you're acting like this. Her voice is calm, soothing even, but it only makes me feel more unsettled. The way she's talking to me, it feels rehearsed. Like she's done this before. I pull my hand away, trying to steady my breathing. I don't believe you, I say quietly. I think you're hiding something. Her face hardens for a split second, then she sighs, leaning back in her chair. Fine. If you don't trust me, I don't know what else to say. She's cold now, distant again, and the conversation dies right there. We finish our drinks in silence, and for the first time on this trip, I feel completely alone. When we get back to the cabin, she heads straight for the bedroom, muttering something about needing a nap. I sit on the couch, staring out the window, trying to figure out where everything went wrong. My mind is racing, replaying every strange moment from the past few weeks, trying to piece it all together. That's when it hits me, her phone. I know it's wrong, but I can't take this uncertainty anymore. I need answers. So, while she's in the bedroom, I grab her phone from the table where she left it, my heart pounding in my chest. I unlock it easily, she never changed her passcode. My hands are shaking as I scroll through her messages, looking for anything that will explain the way she's been acting. At first, I don't see anything unusual. Just work texts, group chats with her friends, nothing. But then I find it. A message thread with someone saved under a random name I don't recognize, just an emoji, no real name. I open it, and my stomach drops. The messages are flirty, playful, intimate. It's obvious from the way they're talking that this isn't just a friend from work. My hands go numb as I scroll through their conversation, reading each message like a punch to the gut. I don't even make it to the end before I stop, my heart racing, my vision blurring with tears. This is it. This is the moment where everything falls apart. After the whole phone situation, I'm sitting there, still trying to process everything. My head's a mess, and I honestly don't know what to believe anymore. Emily's in the bedroom, probably asleep, and I'm just sitting on the couch, my mind racing. Part of me wants to confront her, but the other part is exhausted, like I've been fighting a battle I'm already losing. After a while, I decide to clear my head. Maybe some fresh air will help. I remember there's a pool down by the reception area, and I figure a swim might calm my nerves. I grab my towel and head out, thinking Emily could use some time to herself too. She left the house earlier, probably to take a break from me. Maybe I should do the same. As I approach the reception area, I spot her before she notices me. She's standing there, leaning on the counter, talking to the receptionist, a guy, early 30s, probably. They're laughing, and I can't help but notice the way she's leaning in a little too close, twirling her hair as she talks. There's this playful energy between them that makes my chest tighten. I stop in my tracks, watching for a moment. My mind immediately jumps to conclusions. Am I just being paranoid again? Is this part of the same thing, or am I overreacting? I try to tell myself it's nothing, but the way she's looking at him, it's the same look she used to give me when we first started dating. I take a deep breath and walk up to them, forcing a smile. Hey, what's going on? Emily straightens up, looking surprised to see me. Oh, hey. I was just asking about some things to do around here, she says, her voice casual, but there's a slight tension in her eyes. This is Ryan. He's been super helpful. Ryan gives me a nod, that typical, friendly but too friendly, look. Hey, man. Just giving your wife some tips on the best spots around here. I nod back, trying to keep my cool, but the jealousy is bubbling up inside me. Yeah. That's great. My voice comes out a little sharper than I intended, and Emily picks up on it immediately. She frowns, turning toward me. What's with the tone? You're acting weird. I shake my head, trying to defuse the situation before it escalates. I'm not acting weird. I don't know, you seemed really into whatever he was saying. She scoffs, rolling her eyes. Oh my God, Jason. Seriously? He's the receptionist. We were talking about places to visit, that's all. Don't make this into something it's not. Ryan looks awkward now, like he wants to disappear, and I realize I'm making a scene. Yeah, of course, I say quickly, feeling stupid for even bringing it up. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to make it weird. Emily huffs, clearly annoyed, and turns back to Ryan. Anyway, thanks for the suggestions. I think we'll check them out later. She grabs my arm and steers me toward the pool area, her grip tight. I can feel the frustration radiating off her. As soon as we're out of earshot, she stops and looks at me, her eyes flashing with anger. What the hell was that about? I don't know, I say, running a hand through my hair. It looked like you were flirting. Flirting? She laughs bitterly. Jesus, Jason. You're being ridiculous. He's the receptionist. What do you think is going to happen? I don't know how to answer that. I feel like I'm spiraling, overanalyzing every little thing. Maybe I am being paranoid. You're right. I'm sorry, I mumble, not really knowing what else to say. She shakes her head, exasperated. You need to get a grip. You've been acting weird this whole trip, and honestly, it's exhausting. I don't respond. Instead, I just nod and keep walking toward the pool, feeling like I've somehow lost another battle. I tell myself it's no big deal. It's just a misunderstanding, right? Maybe she's right, maybe I am blowing things out of proportion. We reach the pool, and I try to shake off the tension. I dive into the water, hoping it'll cool my nerves. But as I swim, I can't stop thinking about the way she laughed with Ryan, the way her whole demeanor changed when she was talking to him. It was subtle, but it was there. I'm trying to convince myself that it doesn't mean anything, that I'm just overthinking like usual. But deep down, I know something's still wrong. Something's been wrong for a while now, and no amount of swimming or apologizing is going to make it go away. So, after that awkward moment at the reception, I'm doing my best to push the whole thing out of my mind. I mean, it's like Emily said, what could really be going on with a random receptionist? I'm probably just making things worse by constantly doubting her. I decide to let it go, but it's harder than I thought. Later that afternoon, we head back to the reception area to book an excursion, a one-night camping trip in the mountains, something I've been excited about since we planned this getaway. It feels like the perfect opportunity to get away from everything, maybe even from my own paranoid thoughts. When we get to the front desk, there's a different guy standing there. This one seems a little younger, maybe in his late 20s, with messy hair and a laid-back vibe. As soon as Emily sees him, her face lights up in a way that sets off all the alarm bells in my head. "Charlie," she says, her voice full of surprise. "Charlie?" I don't remember her ever mentioning a Charlie. The guy looks up from his computer, and a wide grin spreads across his face. "Emily. No way, what are you doing here?" Before I can even process what's happening, he leans over the counter and plants a kiss on her cheek. It's casual, like they've done this 1,000 times, but it still feels like a punch to the gut. I stand there, trying to keep my cool, but I feel that familiar pit of jealousy forming in my stomach. I remind myself that this could be totally innocent, friend's kiss on the cheek, right? But the casual familiarity between them is hard to ignore. "Oh, just getting away for a bit," Emily says, laughing. She's glowing, like seeing him has made her whole day. Meanwhile, I'm standing there like a third wheel. I clear my throat, trying to get Emily's attention. "So, you know each other?" Emily finally looks at me, her smile fading a little when she sees the look on my face. "Yeah, Charlie's an old friend from college. I didn't even know he worked here." Charlie nods, still grinning. "Small world, huh? We used to hang out all the time back in the day." He turns to me, extending a hand. "And you must be Jason. Nice to meet you, man." I shake his hand, trying to play it cool, but my mind is racing. Something about this whole situation feels off. Why didn't she mention this old friend before? And why does he seem so comfortable kissing her like that? "Yeah, nice to meet you," I say, forcing a smile. "We were actually hoping to book a camping trip for tonight. Heard it's a great way to see the mountains." "Absolutely," Charlie says, switching back into professional mode. He pulls up some information on his computer and starts walking us through the details of the trip. Emily's still smiling, but now that my jealousy is fully activated, every little thing she does feels suspicious. Once we're done booking the trip, we head back to the cabin to pack for the night. I try to keep my mouth shut, but it's eating away at me. Who is this guy to her? And why didn't she tell me about him before? As we're packing, I finally break. "So, you and Charlie seem close." Emily glances at me, rolling her eyes. "Jason, don't start again. He's just an old friend. There's nothing to worry about." I want to believe her, but the way she said it felt dismissive, like my concerns don't matter. "It's just. I don't know. He kissed you on the cheek, and it caught me off guard." She sighs, clearly annoyed. "He's European, Jason. It's normal." "European? Since when was Charlie European?" I don't even have time to process that because Emily's already moved on, packing up her bag and acting like the conversation is over. I drop it again, feeling defeated. Every time I bring something up, it seems like I'm the one being unreasonable. But that uneasy feeling is still gnawing at me. Something just doesn't add up. Later that afternoon, we head out on the camping trip. It's supposed to be a simple overnight stay in the mountains, complete with hiking, stargazing, and a night in tents. The perfect way to reconnect, right? I tell myself to enjoy it, to stop questioning everything. As we drive into the mountains, the view is breathtaking, but the tension between us feels like a wall. Emily's chatting away about the scenery, but I'm distracted, stuck in my own head. I keep replaying everything, Charlie, the kiss, the way she brushed off my concerns. I want to relax and let it go, but something inside me won't stop twisting. When we finally get to the campsite, it's almost sunset. The guide helps us set up the tents, and for a moment, it feels like maybe this trip will be a good thing. Maybe the peace of the mountains will help me clear my head. But as the stars come out and we sit around the campfire, the silence between us feels louder than the crackling flames. After spending the evening under the stars, I start to feel a little more at ease. The fresh mountain air, the quiet, the simplicity of the campsite, it's everything I needed to calm my racing thoughts. For the first time in a long while, it feels like I can actually breathe. As we sit by the fire, Emily seems relaxed, too. She's not glued to her phone for once, and we actually have a decent conversation about the trip, work, and some of our favorite memories from when we first started dating. It's almost like we're ourselves again, and I start to think maybe things aren't as bad as they've seemed. But then, just as the night's winding down, Emily starts shifting in her seat, wincing slightly. "You okay?" I ask, noticing her discomfort. She sighs, rubbing her lower back. "I don't know. My back's been bothering me all day. I thought it would go away, but it's getting worse." I immediately feel a wave of concern. "Why didn't you say something earlier? You should have rested." "I didn't want to ruin the trip," she says, forcing a smile, but the pain in her eyes is obvious. "I'll be fine. Maybe I just need to lie down for a while." I suggest we head to the tent, but she shakes her head. "I think I should go back to the house. The beds there will be better for my back than these sleeping bags." I hesitate, torn between staying here and making sure she's okay. "Are you sure? We can both head back." She gives me a weak smile. No, you stay. You've been looking forward to this. I don't want to cut it short for you. I'll be fine." I pause, still not sure. But then she adds, "There's a group heading back to the cabins now. I can catch a ride with them. I'll just rest, maybe see if a hot shower helps." She's right, the group of hikers we came with is packing up and preparing to head back down the mountain. It seems convenient, and honestly, I can't see anything suspicious about it. For once, I feel like I'm not overthinking. "Okay," I finally say, standing up and helping her gather her things. "But let me know as soon as you get back, all right? If you need anything, call me." She nods, looking grateful. "I will, I promise." As the group heads out, I watch her leave with them, feeling a bit uneasy but mostly concerned for her health. Maybe this will be good for both of us, she can rest, and I can stay another night to clear my head. The last couple of days have been emotionally draining, and I need this time alone to really think things through without spiraling into paranoia again. After she leaves, the campsite feels strangely quiet. I sit by the fire for a while longer, staring at the flames, trying to make sense of everything. The tension that's been building between us for weeks seems to have eased tonight, but it hasn't disappeared completely. I can't help but wonder if I've been making things worse by constantly questioning her. Maybe I've let my insecurities get the best of me. The truth is, I want to trust her. I want to believe that everything's fine, that she really was just catching up with an old friend, that the texts were harmless, that her back really does hurt and that's the only reason she's gone back to the cabin. But a small voice in the back of my mind keeps whispering doubts. Maybe I'm not ready to face the truth, or maybe I'm just afraid of what it would mean if I dig deeper and find out I was right all along. For now, I push those thoughts away. I spend the rest of the night sitting under the stars, letting the stillness of the mountains wrap around me. Maybe when I head back tomorrow, things will be clearer. The morning after Emily left, the weather started turning. Clouds rolled in fast, and the wind picked up, making the once peaceful campsite feel a little more threatening. The guide comes by, advising us to pack up early since a storm is expected later in the day. I didn't think I'd be cutting my trip short, but nature has other plans. So, reluctantly, I pack up and make my way back down the mountain, the excitement of the camping trip replaced by a growing sense of unease. I hadn't heard from Emily since she left last night, which was strange, but I told myself she was probably resting. After all, her back was hurting, and she needed to take it easy. Still, something gnaws at me, making me hike faster than I normally would. By the time I reach the house, the wind is howling, and rain is starting to fall. I shake off the dampness as I step inside, the air thick with silence. I expect to find Emily asleep or lounging on the couch, maybe even feeling better after a good night's rest. But what I see when I open the bedroom door makes my entire world collapse. There she is, Emily, lying in bed. But she's not alone. There are two men with her. Two. One of them is Charlie, the old friend from the reception, his face unmistakable. And the other? I can't even process who he is at first because the shock hits me like a truck. All three of them freeze as the door swings open. Emily's eyes go wide with panic, her mouth opening as if to say something, but no words come out. Charlie is on one side of the bed, shirtless, and the other guy, someone I don't recognize, is on the other, in a similar state of undress. The blankets barely cover them, but it's enough to show me exactly what's been going on. I'm completely frozen, my heart pounding in my ears, my breath catching in my throat. It's not just one man. It's two. Two. For a second, I think I'm hallucinating, like this can't possibly be real. But the horrified look on Emily's face tells me everything I need to know. This is happening. This is real. Jason, Emily starts, scrambling to sit up, clutching the sheets around her. I can explain. Explain. What could she possibly say that would make this okay? What could possibly justify this betrayal, this humiliation? My chest feels like it's about to explode, a rush of emotions flooding me all at once, rage, disbelief, heartbreak. I can barely speak. My throat feels like it's closing up. The stranger in the bed looks just as shocked as Charlie, both of them now scrambling to cover themselves. But I'm not even looking at them. My eyes are locked on Emily, the woman I thought I knew. The woman I thought I could trust. What the hell is this? I finally manage to choke out, my voice barely recognizable, shaky with anger. She opens her mouth, but nothing comes out. She just stares at me, her face pale, and for a moment, the room is filled with a suffocating silence. Jason, it's not what it looks like, she stammers, but the words sound hollow, like she doesn't even believe them herself. Not what it looks like. I repeat, my voice rising. How is this not what it looks like, Emily? There are two men in our bed. She flinches at the word our, and for a brief moment, I see something in her eyes, guilt, regret, maybe even shame, but it's too late. That look doesn't matter anymore. Nothing she says or does will ever erase what's in front of me right now. I don't know what to do. I don't know if I should scream, if I should cry, if I should just turn around and walk out and never look back. My legs feel weak, and my hands are shaking uncontrollably. I feel sick, like I'm going to throw up right there on the floor. Charlie clears his throat, trying to speak. Jason, man, we didn't. Shut the hell up. I snap, glaring at him. My voice is louder than I expected, and it surprises even me. I turn back to Emily. How could you do this? With him? With them? She's shaking her head, tears starting to form in her eyes. It was a mistake, I didn't mean for. For what? I cut her off, my voice full of venom. For me to find out. She's silent, her mouth opening and closing like she's grasping for the right words, but nothing comes. I don't think there are any right words for this. There's nothing she can say to make this any better. I take a step back, feeling like the ground has been ripped out from under me. My entire marriage, my entire life with her, it all feels like a lie now. I've been trying to fix something that was already broken beyond repair. And now, there's no going back. I can't stay here. I can't even look at her anymore. Without another word, I turn and walk out of the room, out of the house, the sound of the storm outside barely registering over the chaos in my head. I drove home in a daze, barely remembering the trip. The storm outside mirrored the chaos in my head, but inside the car, everything felt numb. I left Emily behind at the cabin, left her with the men she chose over me. I didn't yell anymore. I didn't need to. The silence between us in those last few moments said everything. When I got home, I couldn't feel anything. I was completely hollow. I spent the next couple of days going through the motions, packing up Emily's things, leaving them by the front door in a neat pile. I couldn't bear to see her again, not after what I'd walked in on. It was over. She knew it, and I knew it. A few days later, she came back from the cabin. But when she arrived, she couldn't get in. I'd already changed the locks. I watched from the window as she saw the letter and the suitcase waiting for her outside. For a moment, she just stood there, staring at the door like she didn't understand what was happening. Then, she bent down and picked up the letter. In it, I laid everything out. The betrayal, the lies, the humiliation. I didn't scream in the letter, didn't curse or rage. I simply told her that I was done, that whatever we had was gone. That she could take her things and leave, and that I'd already started the divorce process. I couldn't see her anymore, and I didn't want to hear any more of her explanations. There was nothing left to explain. She stayed outside for a long time, sitting on the steps with her head in her hands. I didn't watch for long, though. I couldn't bear it. I walked away from the window, packed up the last pieces of her that were still in the house, and by the time I came back, she was gone. The divorce went through quickly. No kids, no real estate to fight over, just paperwork and signatures. After everything, it felt like a relief to have it officially over, even though the emotional wounds were still raw. I tried to move on, focusing on work, reconnecting with friends, doing anything I could to keep my mind from drifting back to her. But it wasn't easy. It never is. Then, about a month later, I heard from some mutual friends. We hadn't talked much since the divorce, but they still kept me in the loop, probably more out of pity than anything else. That's when I found out what had really been going on with Emily after we split. Apparently, not long after the divorce, she had an abortion. She didn't know who the child belonged to, whether it was mine, one of the men from the cabin, or someone else. The news hit me like a punch to the gut, even though I knew I shouldn't care anymore. She was no longer my problem. But still, hearing that, it twisted something deep inside me. I hadn't even thought about kids, about the possibility that she could have been pregnant. The idea that it could have been mine, that I could have been dragged into her web of lies even deeper, it made me sick. And that wasn't all. According to our friends, she was in bad shape. Everyone in our area knew her now, not just as Emily, the lawyer, but as Emily, the woman who couldn't keep her legs closed. That's how one of the guys put it, and it stung to hear her reduced to that, even after what she'd done to me. Apparently, there wasn't a single man in our area she hadn't slept with, or at least that's what the rumors said. Every story I heard about her was worse than the last, how she had spiraled after the divorce, how her reputation was in tatters, how she seemed to be on a self-destructive path, hooking up with anyone and everyone. I should have felt vindicated, I guess. I mean, wasn't this what she deserved after everything? But instead, it just made me feel hollow all over again. This wasn't the woman I married. I didn't recognize her anymore. I never reached out to her after hearing the news. There was no point. I was done with her. But part of me couldn't help but wonder how things had gotten so bad, how the woman I'd fallen in love with had turned into someone I couldn't even look at. I still don't know if I'll ever really understand it. Maybe I was blind from the beginning, or maybe she was always good at hiding who she really was. Either way, the damage was done. Now, when people talk about her, they don't see the woman I knew. They see the wreck she's become. And I guess, in some twisted way, that's the final chapter of our story. It's over. But the scars? Those are going to stay for a long time. The first few weeks after the divorce were a blur. I was angry, but it wasn't just anger at Emily, it was at myself, too. I kept replaying everything in my head, wondering how I could have missed all the signs. Every little red flag I'd brushed off felt like a dagger now, cutting deeper into the wounds she'd left behind. I spent a lot of time alone, avoiding friends, avoiding conversation, just trying to figure out how to breathe through the hurt without falling apart. At first, I drowned myself in distractions. I picked up extra hours at work, telling myself that staying busy would keep my mind off her. But no matter how many hours I worked, no matter how exhausted I felt when I got home, she was always there in the back of my mind. The memories haunted me, especially the moment I found her in that bed with those two men. It played like a broken record, over and over, until I didn't think I could take it anymore. Eventually, I realized I couldn't outrun the pain. So, I faced it head-on. I started seeing a therapist, someone I could actually talk to about everything without feeling judged. At first, it felt awkward, like I was exposing all these deep, ugly parts of myself that I wasn't ready to share. But as the weeks went on, I started to feel lighter. Talking through the betrayal, the loss, the shame, it didn't erase the pain, but it made it manageable. It helped me understand that what Emily did wasn't a reflection of me, but of her own brokenness. Exercise became my next outlet. I started running every morning before work, pushing myself harder and harder until my legs burned and my lungs felt like they were on fire. The physical pain became a kind of release, a way to channel all the anger and confusion into something tangible. It was like every mile I ran took me further away from the person I'd been when I was with Emily. Slowly but surely, I started to feel like myself again, stronger, more in control. I also forced myself to reconnect with friends. At first, it was difficult. They all knew about what happened, and I hated the idea of being the guy everyone pitied. But once I swallowed my pride, I found that being around people who genuinely cared about me was exactly what I needed. My friends didn't just offer sympathy, they helped me laugh again, reminded me of the life I still had ahead of me. I needed that sense of normalcy, that reminder that my world hadn't completely fallen apart. Finally, I accepted that healing was going to take time. There were good days, where I felt like I was moving forward, and then there were bad days, where the weight of the betrayal still sat heavy on my chest. But each day that passed, I learned a little more about letting go. Letting go of the anger, the what-ifs, the need for closure that I was never going to get. Emily's actions had broken me, but they didn't define me. And slowly, I started rebuilding a life that didn't include her shadow hanging over me.